Crank it up loud. Let the story unfold. We're the masters of smash. Be brave and be bold. In the heart of the battle, we'll rise from the ground. With every beat pumping in a warrior sound.
Hello and welcome to the Smash Masters podcast, episode 86.
86.
Where we talk about collision repair, PDR, everything in between. I'm Stefan Esche. That's Nick Priest. What's up, Nick?
How's it going?
Not
A little
too bad.
cold over here. You know, I got this up like this and there's no coffee in it. And I'm wondering, why did I not get coffee before we started this? But, you know, it is what it is, man. We've had some crazy weather. I know a lot of people have, but the South is not really prepared for this kind of ice storm weather. And yeah, people's been buying up everything. It's been a crazy few days, but we're making it. We're gonna make it, and then we'll be ready for MTE in just a few days.
Yeah. I won't make fun of you. We got about like 2 feet of snow here.
Yeah.
It's really kind of changed some things, but I went to work today.
Yeah.
So yeah. New Englander, man, we just trek out into it. You know, it's nothing new. But 2 feet of snow. It's been a while since we got that much snow. So I've been doing a lot of shoveling these last few days.
It's really difficult to drive on ice, though. So you know, take that for what it is. I mean, yeah, road prep is a good thing to have.
So Zishan hopping in the comments. Thanks for coming in, man. You're in the right time zone. I love it.
Right. Nice.
I got to watch Z. He was one of the competitors at the Camauto competition this last year. Did some great work. Yeah, you know, I mean, other than that, I mean, I guess the weather's the big deal. MTEs this week. So yep, as Alex said, we'll miss you, Alex. Not being at MTE, maybe next year.
Maybe. Yeah,
let's
maybe.
Hope. Let's hope. But yeah, MTEs this week, and yeah, I'm excited. I fly out Wednesday, fly back Sunday. Are you driving? Or are you flying?
I'm gonna look and see. I'm probably gonna drive, in all honesty, because it's 10 hours for me, so it's not nothing too crazy. But
I would do that.
We'll see what happens.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, we got a great show for you guys this week. Let's just bring them out here. We got Chris White from KECO. Thanks for joining us.
What's up, guys? How are you?
Doing well.
Good.
Wow. Yeah.
No, I just you know, I appreciate you coming. We kind of asked you a little last minute here, so you're a trooper for coming on. I really appreciate that.
Listen, I'm a minute man. That's how we work at KECO. We're ready always. Whatever's going on, we want to be a part.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you're definitely going to MTE then?
Yes. I got some things on tomorrow and Wednesday. So I'll be taking like a 5 a.m. flight on Thursday. I think I hit the ground. I have nothing direct from Oklahoma City, so I think I hit the ground in Orlando like at 10:30, and hop over to the booth, and hopefully the guys will have most of it set up before I get there. But anyway, I think we're taking more people than we've ever taken. It seems like our tribe grows year after year, and it's kind of hard to exclude people from what is MTE. It's a pretty amazing experience for sure.
Yeah. And you guys usually have a pretty good size setup at MTE.
We do. Yeah, it's getting bigger all the time. And I will say that so Kevin Andrews, if you guys have met Kevin, that is the director of our UK team. He came over literally 2 weeks before MTE he's like almost a savant with organization, and so he had ideas with the booth. So between he and Hayden and Benjamin and Danny, they've really created a piece of art in our organization, and really the way that we're going to display products is better than we've ever done. And the number of products that we have is greater than it's ever been. And then we're bringing Desiree for the first time, and Desiree will be there. We'll kind of set up a checkout line. Historically at KECO, I'd say we have a bunch of us trying to help people close out orders, but it's not that like clear path of a line per se. And so what Hayden said is we're going to do it like Chick-fil-A style, basically, where you have like people in line to check out with Desiree, and then the rest of us will just go up and grab people out of line and get what they need, So I think it'll be a situation where it's great for shopping, great checkout experience, and we're going to have a ton of demo. Danny and his team will, we'll have Danny and Kaiser and Mike and Kevin, all of those guys, and then Phil part-time from the UK doing demo. We're going to have, I think, 3, maybe 4 demo areas. And within demo, what we're really talking about is trying to teach, train, educate in that process. And so, you need a lot of space for all this. MTE has gotten, I'd say, particularly expensive. I really think the booth cost is greater at MTE for us. Now we have a little more space, but I think the booth cost is greater at MTE for us than it is SEMA, to be quite honest. So like MTE, is proud of their booth. And so what we have to do is really execute. And I think we have a better plan than we've ever had before, better products, greater products than we've ever had before. And so it should be a great show for us. Not sure about what kind of year people had in the PDR business and overall. So maybe that'll affect things, but I don't know what you guys are hearing about who's coming and who's not, and what kind of money's jingling around in their pockets. But no matter what, we'll be there and have a great time.
From just what we hear, like there's a lot of people, a lot of first timers that are interested in going. A lot of body guys that aren't PDR guys, that aren't, they just want to come and see what's going on. So
put their hands on tools and stuff.
Just kind of look at the different aspects of something, because we talk about it a lot, and I don't know, we'll see, but that's what we hear. So
I did hear from Mike Mack that he saw the setup you guys had for MTE, I guess at the lodge, and he said it was really cool. So I'm excited to see that. You guys doing a full car like you did at SEMA?
We're not. We did the car at SEMA. We talked about doing that at MTE, but quite honestly, the number of products that you have to show at MTE is very different than the number of products that you have to show at SEMA. Because PDR buyers are largely individual product buyers. SEMA and collision buyers are largely system buyers. And so, it's great to be able to exhibit and show what a system can do on a car. It's actually easier on different sections. We'll have a lateral tension section. Actually, I don't know if you guys have paid attention to our website in the last year, but we've actually changed the organization of how we organize our tools, and we think of them as actions, and we think of them as 5 actions. So we have pulling, pushing, striking, tensioning, and lighting. And so that whole striking piece is something that years ago we were fairly weak on, and little by little we've added a ton of different tips. Actually got some new tips, boss tips that are coming out at MTE. So look for those. But the striking area. We'll have a demo, learning area on striking. We'll have a specific learning area on lateral tension and tensioning. We'll have, a specific area on bigger aspects of pulling, like, K towers and such, and, not a specific area necessarily on lighting, but that's how we're thinking of it. It's one of the things I've noticed about websites that sell PDR tools is many times the subcategories is like, there's subcategories like things like accessories, and like there's like a million things in accessories, and to me that's not, I don't think it intended to be that way, or it didn't start to be a million things in accessories, but it just kind of became that over the course of time. And so if you can think of tools in the action that they do and then organize them by that, it helps people to find their tools. And so that's what we decided to do. And it informs, our tools inform our training, which then goes back to our tools. And so ultimately, that's created a new level of organization within our booth at MTE.
Okay. I can appreciate that. I mean, it's I'm constantly working on my own website and my key is organization. So I love to see that. And I have noticed the difference in the website. I'll tell you, my favorite page, I'm always opening the KECO tabs and going to the new products area. So don't get rid of the new products area. I love cruising that.
That's a good area. Yeah. I like it.
But I'd really love to talk a little bit about you as Chris White. I want to know, do you have any background of working on cars at all?
Zero.
I
mean, okay. I mean, I guess I have now 10 years of either watching people do it, or maybe doing it myself a bit. Maybe people don't know, but I do some of our trainings myself still today.
I've seen you train on a video, and you could have fooled me. So,
well, here's the thing: you learn what you need to learn, and so ultimately, I would never act as if I was someone who had fixed cars for a living. But what I do know is something that most guys don't know, which is how metal behaves and how to use glue pull repair, and in conjunction, with the rest of our tool line, to be able to create repair where repair wasn't really possible before. And so, I think we've all gained a confidence in that area, and I think that training is huge, by the way, like, and getting bigger all the time. I'd say that's our primary focus as a company, is growing our training offering, growing our the value that we provide in training, and actually we got some work to do. Way back when 14, 15 is when we really kind of got serious about getting into the collision market. But at that time, no one believed what glue pull repair could do for their vehicles, and they didn't believe in it as a true process, and they weren't really willing. No one was willing to spend money on it at that time. So we had to sell glue pull repair before we sold KECO. Today, with training, I'm convinced that whether it be technicians or the shop owners, or really the entire collision industry, does not invest enough in themselves to grow their skill set. I think that the average, obviously your podcast speaks to both the PDR market and the collision market. I think both could do with investing more in themselves, but my personal opinion is that the PDR market has, put a lot more into investing in themselves than collision has, right? I mean, like when you
For
talk
sure.
to people about their when they were trained, they point to some time in the past, and maybe it's 10
Right.
years or maybe it's 20 years or maybe it's 30 years. It's kind of like, hey, when did you go to high school? And people point, and so like there's this, you're in school and at some point you graduate. That's kind of the mindset of our society.
Yeah.
But the truth is we never graduate. We should always be learning. We should always be investing in ourselves. And so that's what
I agree.
we're trying to do is change that mindset. But part of the reason why the mindset's there is the value in training in the collision industry just hasn't been high enough. The bar has not been high enough in the value of training that people are bringing. And so we're trying to change that. That's our primary focus. And I think that is what separates us, if, and we've talked about it, we've talked about it before the show started, that, there's people that copy our tools. There's cheaper tools that kind of halfway look like ours and act like ours. But those people are never going to invest like we invest. They're not going to train people like we train people. They're not going to try to build people in the way that we're trying to build people. And so ultimately, the way to compete with that isn't to try to change who you are. It's to lean into who you are. We want to be, however good we were at training before, we want to be better. However good we were at developing tools and investing in new tools, we want to be better. And so anyway, that's kind of all over the board with the things that I'm talking about, but ultimately, it all ties together because for us, we have this highly vertical model where we have probably 10 people so tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning, there'll be an engineering meeting and there'll be 10 people from my staff in a 2-hour engineering meeting. I shudder to think what it cost me just for those 2 hours, to have 10 people sitting there talking about new products, working on, moving that we always have 20, 30 items that we talk through and 20 or 30 more that we don't get to, at every week. And the idea, the vertical model of having ideas, then manufacturing those in our own plant, and then selling those direct to technicians, and then going in and training direct. That's a model that few, maybe none, have, and that's what makes KECO what KECO is. And without a doubt, if people see what we do and they don't put all that investment in, and then they just copy the tool, of course they can be cheaper. Of course they can, but they can't bring the next thing, right?
Right.
I've yet to see any of those companies bring the next thing. There's I don't know, there's people out there that might be upset with me even saying this, but like guys like Ken Garrison. Ken's a friend of mine. I don't think Ken is heavily a copier guy. He may get some inspiration, but then he adds a little something to it. He tries to grow it, develop it, and he also comes up with new ideas on his own. Now, all this Temu and AliExpress and all those I've not seen one new product that those guys, not one, not ever, right? And so if the industry, if you are a guy that's a PDR tech or a collision tech, and you look at your life 5 or 10 years ago and you say, all that, let's say 10 years ago, if I go back to 10 years ago and only the tools are available to me from now on,
Mm-hmm.
from 10 years ago, if
Mm.
that's the only tools I have from now on,
Mm.
but I can get them for 10% less or 20% less or 30% less, is that a good trade? Or
Mm.
would I rather have access to continued innovation, people that never sleep in trying to continue to make my job easier and better,
Mhm.
and pay a little bit more for it, right? I mean, that's really what we're talking about.
For
Yeah.
sure, for sure. I like to say, and it was a question I had for you, and you went and answered it already. But I like to say that the difference between Mr. Garrison and the Timu, we have the difference between innovation and just plain copying. And
Mhm.
I believe there's a big difference between those.
For
So
sure,
I do
100%.
too. I
you
do
hit
too.
it. You hit it right on the nail right
Right.
there.
Daniel wants to know, will you guys have test panels set up to try out for tools in the booth?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Daniel. That's what we were talking about a little bit, is we'll have a striking area, where people can really work with our hammers and tips that we've developed. And my hope is, I think the guys pulled this off, but my hope is that we would create different types of high spots in panels, and then Kevin Andrews will be there manning that area for the most part, and he'll be talking through, like, listen, if you have this particular high spot, what would you choose to work on it with? And and then really just kind of a interaction of like, oh, maybe you should try this, or maybe and so but you match your high spot and your tip, right? And people kind of know that, but maybe they don't completely, right? And so I've noticed the tips that we've developed and the hammers that we've developed, man, does stuff ever lay down just cleaner than what we've ever had. The biggest, it's so hard. The innovation in striking takes really getting under the hood and really paying attention to the nuances of what one tip can do versus another. And PDR guys are willing to geek out on that. Collision guys maybe not so much, but that we'll have one demo area. Daniel set up to work on that. We'll have another demo area set up to really talk through lateral tension and look at the tensioning tools that we have. We'll have another demo area that's really more dedicated to bigger, heavier pulling, like K towers and such.
Yeah, that's cool. I had a little question. Like, when you guys are doing training, like over the years, have you ever had a tool or something set up and then kind of put it in training and had to kind of like readjust some things just because it wasn't really doing like
the development phase?
Without a doubt.
Yeah,
So that happens more often than I would like, to be honest. So and that is one thing that at KECO we talk about our core values, and we call them the we are's, and it's, we are honest, we are committed, we are encouraging, and we are winners. Well, that honest piece, that's the one. And when we talk about that, it's not just the difference between telling the truth and telling a lie. It is transparency, to the point of vulnerability, so that you can begin to build trust. And so that is what we're talking about there. We want to be completely open and honest, with all of that.
Right. That's got to be a huge successful piece, and taking these tools maybe before they hit market and just testing them, and going all over like you guys do in all these body shops and testing, trying them out, seeing what exactly works and what don't work.
It is. And that's the stuff that Dan, having people like Danny and Mike and then all of our great ambassadors, that's, we say, listen, like, if it doesn't work for some reason, you got to give that back to us. We have to know so that we can fix it. We have to be honest with it so that we can fix it. And, that level of transparency has created this conduit. Like I always say, it's like the thing at the bank where, you stick your, check in and it goes up, and then they give the cash and comes right back. Right. So, but that doesn't, if you're not willing to be honest about the problems that you have, then like that line's broken. Right.
Right.
So
For sure.
we have to be honest about, what we can and what we can't do.
Yeah. And one more thing while we were talking about body guys and PDR guys, you mentioned that PDR guys kind of geek out on a lot of this stuff, and body guys some of them may be like, okay, this is cool. Some of them may not be. What have you seen a reason maybe why that is, or any interest in that particular thing?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons. I do think that within the collision industry, there has been, I think, pendulum swing, right? And I think that, the pendulum swung way too far to replace and replacing everything. And then when that pendulum swung too far and everybody began to replace so much, you start losing, the skill set of repair. And so I do think that, when we first started with, hey, we're cleaner, we're less invasive, we're better quality, but then we started teaching and training, people started telling us, well, yeah, you are cleaner and less invasive and better quality, but like this metal movement, this idea of metal flow, like this has been lost in the collision world, and they need it back. OEMs, hey, you keep doing this, keep shouting this from the mountaintops, because it's been lost. And so there's, we do have a responsibility, and we're executing on that responsibility to help bring back, that skill set. Now, when you imply more skill, then it takes a bit more time, right? And what there needs to be is, a fair amount of hours applied to repair versus replace. And there needs to be the opportunity, if we want more repair, there needs to be the opportunity for that repair to be more profitable than changing out a part, and so when that happens, and we do have customers that are executing that, then the training pays off, the guys up their skill set, and now, the labor is the most profitable part of the work order for the body shop, and it just works, right? But for you guys know as much as me, or maybe better than me, that system tends to be broken from time to time. But when that can work, it allows body guys to start thinking that way more. But really, at the end of the day, body guys, what they're really trying to do is turn hours, and they're not trying to and they're trying to turn those hours profitably. And so there's really not the need, or the desire to put a tremendous amount of time and effort that's disproportionate to what you can make. Just get it flat enough, put a skim coat on it, and go, right. Send it to the paint booth.
Absolutely.
That's the way it needs to go, and that's the way it should go. And so, but I will say that, like, so when you say, are body guys interested, here's where they need to be interested. We've I'd call it like simplified our training process, and this is, even been since you guys have been, it's not like it's wholesale different, but I wanted to have a process that encompassed everything that we do every time. Because, the thing again, Danny's so honest that, like, if you give him a process that's too rigid, that doesn't work every time, then he's going to rebel against that because he's too honest. He's not going to, like, be teaching a process that is like flawed and doesn't work every time. And so I said, listen, what if our process, our overarching process, is really just 2 steps? Really what we want to do when somebody comes into a repair is, if there's a low and a subsequent high or a combination thereof, then what is prohibiting that from moving is that low and high together has become locked up. So what we really want to do is unlock it. And that starts with lateral, but we want to, step 1, unlock it, unlock the damage. Now, before we had lateral, we were pulling and we were knocking down at the same time. That, we were making these double action moves. There's just different ways to do it, but we're trying to unlock. And then step 2, as you're moving forward, stay unlocked. Well, if you begin to feel that you're getting locked up, you just stop and move to a different tactic. And so that's, we're unlocking it and we're staying unlocked. And so, but as you move toward a flatter and flatter panel, the biggest difference, and even say sharper damage and such, the biggest difference in staying unlocked is striking, because you have to be able to attack those high spots, because that's what's locking you up. It used to be that, guys would, say, listen, this glue won't stick. And it's because they weren't following the 6 C's. And so, still we have people that don't follow the 6 C's. We give them the 6 C's. But now some people will still maintain, hey, this won't pull. Well, it's because they started pulling and pulled and pulled and never knocked anything down. And it just got tighter and tighter. And there's a high here and a high here and a high here. And there's still lows, or the appearance thereof. And so now, what they have to do is unlock it. Right. And so that, people think that lateral tension's, difficult. That's the easiest thing there is, to learn, is being able to how to apply that lateral and how to make those big moves to unlock. The harder part is unlocking that smaller damage. And so that's why we've put so much time and effort into developing our striking tools, and then also into our training program, where it's like, hey, come see us for a week, because you just really can't teach everything you need to know about striking in a day or two in somebody else's shop.
Right.
Anyway. Sure. No, this is absolutely great. No, I will say that when these new hammers came out, the hammer system that you guys have, the different lengths, different heads and everything, totally changed the game for me with KECO and striking. So that was a great development. But I did want to, you made a point. It sparked something in my head there. You made a point that part of what would make a body tech more interested in getting into the repairs rather than replacing is getting good time. In my experience, the quality of writers has gone down a lot. Body shop writers, whether it be that they were trained by insurance companies and never let go of that stuff, or they just never went through any training. They got their license and got the job, and yay, I'm good. So KECO benefits by guys wanting repairs. Would KECO be interested in providing some kind of writing training?
Listen, like the number of people that are bringing up training for estimation to me in the last 18 months is staggering, and so we've started moving that direction. Matter of fact, between myself, Danny had some input, Kev had some, had some input, we were working, we've got kind of an initial presentation, because I've been asked so many times, and you're exactly right. That's the reason this is why I know the pendulum is swinging back from replaced.
Right.
It's because it's not because people wanting our tools and our technician training, because they've been wanting that for years. It's because they recognize exactly what you are saying, Stefan, is that they know that their riders aren't set up to write for this, right? They're
Right.
going to end up writing for replace. So we need to train and educate those guys, so that we train the entire ecosystem. We had this idea in way back in 2018. We just didn't know enough to execute on it. We knew we were going to need to train more than the technicians. We knew we needed to train the whole ecosystem and basically have what we would at the time were in our minds calling a success program. But we weren't able to pull it all together. And
Right.
truthfully, like, I want to put a lot of focus into that. But, if Danny was on here, if Kev was on here, if Mike Mack was on here, they would say, oh my God, like, don't get him started on that, because we can barely keep up with what we need to keep up with now. Right. And so quite honestly, I started thinking, well, I need a crew that trains the front of the house, and I need a crew that trains the back of the house.
Right.
I don't need to mix the two. Right.
No.
Right. For sure.
So, like, without a doubt, that is, I think, a massive opportunity for us.
There just wasn't enough like data out there in 2018 to kind of feel that to the fullest potential anyways. I mean, now there's enough data out there. You could run and go at that and make a good stab at that and create some good out of that. So it did take a while to get all this stuff developed and everybody on board. I mean, you guys have been killing it with the trainings. Like, every time I open up Facebook, like, there's somebody training somewhere, and just like Brandon, Danny, Mike, I mean, everywhere. And that's cool to see that. And that's why I asked, how are the body guys becoming interested in it versus, the PDR guys? Because they have to, like, it has to be boosted from.
Yeah. Well, you bring up, and there's Brandon, commenting right now. You bring up a great point with our ambassadors and the guys that are training. It's something that, if Brandon's listening, Brandon, good job with the guys. Fred Habrel, I'm trying to think and then his son Peter and his daughter Heather. I don't even know the company name, because we sold them at the Rivian conference. I met them, and then Emma took it and closed the deal, and then Brandon went and trained them. And I'm getting ready to go do a speaking engagement with CarStar in Scottsdale in February. And so I knew that, and they're looking at, the total cost of repair data from different shops that have bought. And they mentioned, the CarStar guys, the corporate guys mentioned these Habrels, down in Florida, to Emma about, hey, we're going to look at their data. And I'm like, oh my God, let me call these people and make sure that they really liked, the product and the training. And so I actually called them this morning. I had about an hour's drive this morning. And so I talked to all three of them, the father, the son, and the daughter. And they all said that they really enjoyed it. Brandon, they all said you did a good job. And they also didn't complain about some stuff not coming with it. One time he did a training for me, and way back when we first introduced the premium, that used to have that quick stick with it. And then we pulled that quick stick out and lowered the price. But Brandon didn't realize that. And he told some folks, hey, they forgot to send you the quick stick. And so anyway, I ended up needing to send those people a quick stick.
So you made up for it. That's that's the point here.
Yeah. Now these people, like, I'm getting around this. I'm like trumping you guys. And like, now I'm coming back to the question, which was, are, body guys interested in what's going on in PDR? Well, these guys, their shop is within 45 minutes of Orlando. And so Brandon got them interested. They're going to come on Saturday and bring several people, to MTE.
Cool.
Because they're interested in learning more. They're interested in like trying to see, hey, they love what KECO has, but let me go see what else is out there, you know. And so
Right.
they're going to bring, they got 2 shops. They're going to bring technicians from both shops on Saturday and walk the show and spend time learning, developing, you know, growing like that. That's what this shop is going to be about. And I think that's going to be the case more and more. You got people, you know, one of the guys from that particular shop, I talked to one of the technicians today too. They put the phone in the hands of one of the technicians, and he's like, yeah, we, you know, before we bought, you know, the systems from you guys, we bought some KECO stuff from Anson, you know, because we were looking on Anson. And so anyway, we're all in this together, you know, trying to, you know, like we needed to separate, you know, glue pull repair from PDR because body shops was going to put them on overload. But eventually, you know, some of the techniques, you know, kind of end up coming back together a bit. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of change. I think it's an exciting time to be in the collision industry, and it's an exciting time to be in the PDR industry because they're both changing, growing, developing at a rate that's faster than ever before. Faster.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Couldn't agree more. One of the questions I had for you was about the 6C process. And I wanted to know how that was developed, and then if KECO started training shops before having that process.
Yeah. So yes, the way that was developed was, you know, way back when we first started, you know, 2009, we started with the hail tabs. You know, I'm going to give you as fast as I can get you there. 2009, we started with the hail tabs. We, you know, like 10 or 11, where you got super tabs now, and you know, PDR guys are like, hey, you need to go to the body shop with that, and then we start with robos about 11 or so, and then we go to centipedes at about 12, and then, you know, actually, and you know, centipedes were, you know, designed to keep from having the high low, you know, of lining up a bunch of crease tabs. But they were so flexible that they still
they still do that. Yeah.
And so it was Jonathan Van Fontaine that I met at a trade show, and he loved the centipedes, and I was getting mixed reviews on them. And of course, we didn't have the level of research and development that we had today, and the level of immersion in both PDR and collision then that we have today. And so I was like, hey, why do you like those so much? And he said, well, you know, because they're great. They pull, you know, the whole crease. I'm like, well, are you sure? Some people don't like them. He's like, well, I made this adapter, and he pulled out a metal adapter, right? You know, that he had made to give it, you know, to stiffen the thing, right? And so then we chatted, and I told him the first time I met him, I said, listen, like, I need your help, right? I mean, you have a better understanding technically of where I know where I want to go, but I don't have the understanding to get us there. And so I need your help. And, you know, we worked together for, I don't know, years and years, right? You know, from about, I don't know, 12 or 13 to regularly till 18 or 19. Yeah, now I've forgotten where I was trying to get to with where were we? What were we talking about specifically?
So I was asking him how the 6C process came to be.
Yes, right. So we started, you know, and then so Kenny Austin joined us in 2018. Kenny does, you know, he's got his own business now. He doesn't work with us anymore, but Kenny was a great marketer, really great e-commerce mind. And so, you know, we started getting a lot better at telling our story and getting our systems out there to collision shops, right? And so then, you know, but as we were getting them out there, you know, PDR guys kind of understood glue, or so we thought, so we didn't think we had to teach anybody or train anybody about glue, but then we were getting some negative feedback like, hey, this glue won't stick. And so truthfully, no one that I had ever seen had ever really written down a process. But in watching Jonathan, he always would, either with a torch or some other device, would heat the panel, right? He would always clean the panel, and so truthfully, what I did was just didn't go to work and sat in my home office for 3 or 4 days and wrote and put together the 6 C's and started teaching and training that, from that point forward. And it was basically just taking what I'd seen Jonathan and others do and then testing it, tweaking it, trying to put real temperatures with it, because again, like, fundamentally, there was the idea of, hey, it needs to be clean. Fundamentally, there was the idea of, hey, we need to heat it up, both the tab and the panel. Fundamentally, there was the idea that, now you stick it and you have glue all the way around, a nice glue bed, and then you wait for it to be cool enough, right? And so then we just tested that, we're, in the plant, to kind of put temperatures around it. And then I just wrote the process myself and we started training to it. And again, like, there's what we always try to do with any process is I call it extracting the simplicity out of the complex, and hopefully my friends from my car aren't on here, but like, I've had arguments, or, not arguments, just discussions on like creating simple process, that, and basically I had people tell me, well, that's easy for you. I mean, it's just not that complicated, what you guys do. I'm like, I think it might be a little more complicated than you give it credit for. We just have found the right outline, right? When you find the right outline, there's tons of detail buried within it, but people don't get lost. That's why, like, when I said, Danny and I started getting along a lot better, when I said, hey, can we just agree that it's unlock and then stay unlocked? And then, and that way it's, now you can, so again, like, you got to find, simple process and try to really drive that home with great consistency. But anyway, there's been, we've had a ton of technicians over the years that have been, instrumental to our development and understanding of the process. And then, we are a manufacturing company. I've got a engineering background. I don't really consider myself an engineer, but I suppose I can think that way. And so, we developed and continue to develop methods of glue pull repair that others hadn't really ever thought of before, right? So, and that just that continues from this point forward, basically. But the Jonathan Van and Fontaine was huge in that for several years, and really the face of our company for a number of years. And now he's building his own thing and doing well. And in a way we still work together, and in a way we kind of compete. And but man, guess when companies compete and in building products and trying to make better products, maybe I win some and I lose some, but guess who wins every time? Right. That's the technician. The technician wins every time when people are competing, trying to develop, better products all the time. And so, Jonathan was a big part of us for a long time, and Gene was a big part of us, after that. And then Gene, developed his own training for a while. And so that kind of, put our relationship, kind of in a different spot than it was before for a while.
Sure.
Now, quite honestly, I've been asking Gene to try to, get back involved and try to, help us more. He's doing our presentation at MTE this year.
He's excited for that.
Yeah. Well, I hope he is. And I don't, there's other things. I'm not going to talk about it yet, but there's, something else in particular that I think Gene's going to help us with. I'm going to be excited about. And, and then of course, then we had Danny, but ultimately, here's the thing about, those situations of, me as a company owner, and gosh, I've got, at different times through the course of these years, I've had 50 to 80 employees. I got 60 something employees now, across the globe. And, that there are things, that, one person's responsible for, and there are things that really a group's responsible for. But like, ultimately what I'm trying to do is just bring everybody together to move us forward, so that we can grow. Right. And so, I think that, in those people that have worked with us, that don't work with us as much anymore, I think that, when Jonathan started working with us, I don't think people knew who Jonathan was very much.
Right.
They also didn't know much about KECO. Right. So, KECO grew because of Jonathan's help in the area of collision repair and PDR, and Jonathan grew. Right. Were it not for his time at KECO, he might not be in as good a position to be successful with his own business today. Right. Gene, he obviously had, he was given marketing seminars and things like that. So people knew Gene, but when Gene was the face of KECO, people, you guys didn't know Gene until he was KECO Gene.
Right.
And, that helped, I think it's, and gosh, I've had times with, the guy Kenny that I talked about. He was my right-hand man for, a few years. And quite honestly, like, the guy's, way better at anything he sets his mind to than I'll ever be. But like, when you start having success and you have people that are a part of it, what can happen is, you worry about, well, who was more responsible for this or that. And when in fact, like, it's not, what's really important is that both are growing, right? The individual is growing and the company's growing, right? And as long as the individual's growing and the company's growing, like, that's the best recipe, right? And at the point where, an individual can't grow as much as they need or want to, associated with a certain company, then man, what they need to do is go out on their own and go do that. Right. And that's kind of the, I think I've seen more of that, because I'm not, I wasn't a technician when I started. I had to have help. Right.
Right.
So, and then, whether it's them or whether it's me or the rest of my organization or a combination thereof, we have had success. And so when you have success, then everybody's proud of that success, and everybody feels, that they were a big part of it. And, like I say, you want to see continued growth. And that's where, like with Danny, that's one of the things. I think he gets tired of me continually telling him, listen, like, where are you at? How are you doing? I want to make sure that you feel like you're growing. I want to make sure that you feel like you're moving ahead. And he's like, dude, like, it's good. Like, you're taking great care of me and everything. And I'm like, no. I want you to know how, important you are, to me and the company. And I want you to know that I know you've grown personally since you've been associated with my company, but my company has also grown
Right.
since you've been associated. And so, let's just try to keep communicating to keep that in balance. And, when that gets out of balance, that's when I just got through watching whatever that Dallas Cowboys, documentary is, with Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson and all that. And, when success starts to happen and, two people want to focus too much on who was responsible, that's when it splits up. Right. And so you gotta try to do your best to get outside yourself. But guess what? We're all, by nature, selfish human beings, and so it's hard to get outside yourself. But but like things like this, and I know Stefan, you wanted me to talk a little bit about these things, and I'm more than happy to talk about these things, because I do think I have more of these kind of formative relationships that have moved KECO forward, but then changed over the course of time, that maybe other people don't have those, or maybe other people don't talk about them. I don't know, but I can tell you this, we've had a great degree of success, in the last 15 years in KECO, and there's been a lot of people involved that still help us, even though they're not here today. And but there'll be people that come alongside tomorrow that will help us more than I ever imagined they might as well. Right. It's just we want to breed that environment where we're always constantly growing, and the company's growing, and people within the company are growing. So
yeah, it's important to keep an open mind to those around you. You don't know who is going to be the next step in your process and your help. It could be anybody. So that's good to keep an open mind like that. Daniel Graham wants to hear about new products.
Okay, yeah.
What Daniel Graham wants, Daniel Graham gets.
Yeah. So we have, for MTE, a few different products. Does he already got them loaded up? Okay.
I just have your new products page. So.
Yeah. So within the lateral tension, we'll have, I don't know if they've released it yet, but we're gonna have a Gen 2, a Generation 2 K-Power coming out, and so in reality, what we've done is change the angle a bit of those legs of the K-Power, which makes it to where on a smaller platform you can go further, and that was kind of necessary with the advent of the tab straps and tab blades. The tab straps and tab blades are what fixed the tab dive problem. We were using centipedes and driving on those centipedes, and that would dive if you put too much tension on it. And as far as I know, Danny was the first one to take one of our centipedes and grind that front part off and leave that little bit, and create the first prototype of what our tab strap is. And that's made a huge difference, but it makes you need just a bit more open stroke. And so rather than grow the tool, we've changed the angle of such. And so that's what we'll do there. We've also kind of created some potential for replacement parts in the wear items of the Gen 2 K-Powers. You do have wear items, and so what you need is to be able to replace those wear items rather than having to replace the whole tool. So that's another part of what we've done with Gen 2 K-Power. But then really largely it's the tab straps and tab blades and all of those areas that you can apply lateral tension with different types of tabs. So that's one thing. We do have our a whole new series of tips that we're calling Boss tips, all different sizes and finishes in stainless steel and some and peak. And then we have what we're calling our Robo Beam, which people love our people love our K Beam Junior. People love our Robo, so just sort of bring them both together is what we're doing, because when it comes to the difference, particularly with PDR guys, but also collision guys, when you're lifting with a Robo, the feel is so much better than turning a knob, right?
Right.
So what we've done is give the platform of a K-Beam Junior a Robo sitting on top so that we can have that feel really. And so that's coming. Yeah. So trying to think, there may be, and yeah,
I think this new Pro cart is something that
yes.
people will really be interested in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Kev and Danny spent a lot of time really thinking through all the elements of this cart and really what's possible there with the onboard light and the extendable tray there to be able to work up on rails or the roof of an SUV and
drawers.
The drawers,
Yeah.
are fantastic. The organization within, I'll tell you, we absolutely have leaned into the fact that we're selling organization, and truthfully, that's something that Danny wasn't comfortable with for a while. Is that people are either going to be organized or they're not. I'm like, well,
right.
They're but Kevin, Kevin Andrews, he is, like I told you, he's like a little bit autistic when it comes to organization, and he is so good at it, and so really leans into the concepts of organization that way back before we had all those foams that really Kevin was the first one to create the foams and the home for each tab. We had those tackle boxes for tabs, and
I remember.
When you have a tab that has every shape and size imaginable for every type of damage, but it's in a tackle box, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be able to find it, or you're going to, waste tremendous amount of times trying to find it. And so the fact is, if you want to be able to find that, you need to lay that out in an organized manner. We think of all of our tabs from rough out to finish, and so all those things are organized. They all have a home, but all that costs a tremendous amount of money, to be able to create all these drawers and all this foam with all this organization. And so, the fact is, we're selling we're selling organizers, something that your wife might have, in their kitchen drawers or, cabinets or wherever. Like that is, that is in effect what we're selling. We it is our greatest advantage that we have a tab for every potential type of damage. It could be a massive disadvantage if you can't find it.
Right.
So now, because if you have all those tabs, that means you're charging people for all those tabs. If they can't find them, they paid for something that they're never going to use.
Right.
So now what we have to do is charge them even more to lay it out in a way that they can find it. It's just, it's just what we have to do. And so I don't like the fact that we have to continue to, elevate the cost or the price of our tools. But if you want them to be just a little bit better, Sid Emmert, from the old owner of Knitcraft, he used to say, winner by a nose is still a winner, right? And so you just keep elevating your game, just a little bit. And so I think with that GPR Plus Pro cart, and people look at the price tag and they think, "Ooh, they're proud of that thing." But you have to really get under the hood and you start looking at all these details, right?
Mhm.
That a Toyota and a Lexus are pretty similar vehicles till you start looking at the details.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
I agree.
that's really what you see. Even like in some of these chips, we'll have some level of innovation. But the other thing that like Danny and Kev are really good about is like, hey, listen, there may be some other chips out there that are kind of like this, but they're a little bit scratched up, or they got a little tit coming up, and you can see that ever so slightly. So like if we can give a really fantastic quality product, then it's just going to perform just a little bit better. So that's what we're hoping to do.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, being a technician out here, if I have stuff organized, I feel more comfortable doing the job versus if I don't. So that at the end of the day, price point aside, it makes all the difference in the world. I mean, it really does.
And I can speak to the development. I mean, I started with a level 2 system, and then the L2E came out and we did the upgrade, to put in the foams, and there's a few more tools hanging up on the board. And now I'm working out of a premium, and you guys killed it on that setup. I mean, it's every iteration got that much better. But the premium, I'm truly just able to pull that system over, work right out of it, easily put everything back where I found it, still have room. If I just got to sit down a tool real quick, the top foam's got these giant areas where I can keep my alcohol bottle. I can keep my microfiber towel, things like that. Anyway, just from experience, it's working. It's working.
Well, that's like truly, those, when you have all those people in that engineering meeting, and it's, like I said, Danny and Kev, unless they're doing something else, they're in every engineering meeting, and that's what they're, oh God, look at that. Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I mean, who knows, Danny, we might come up with at least one more drawer, and, who knows what might be in it.
I think the drawers were a big deal, honestly. I mean,
Yeah, really.
Even with the locking cabinet, the dust gets in there. For some reason, the tabs in that drawer stay a little cleaner. So, and in a body shop, dust gets everywhere. So, like, I love being able to pull open that drawer. It's nice, clean. All the tabs are nice. It's
Yeah. Listen, guys, like, I mean, that is an area where, like, it freaks me out, that we continue to, like I say, when they start adding the drawers, all I could think of was like, geez, that's going to cost a lot of money and people aren't going to want to pay for that, and I got to make a margin on that. And now I'm selling toolboxes, and so like, these are the things that, like, because I don't want to force feed people. But then when you lay it out and you're like, listen, like, if we don't sell organization, then, people stand the chance of missing, some of the detail that we've put into this system. Right. And so we got no choice but to sell organization. And so like Danny and Kev and some of the guys were, at the party of organization before I was, to be honest.
Right.
With you. So.
Well, I can tell you, like, I have the GPR cart now without the drawers in it that I use in my mobile trailer, and I have a Tough Built system pack out. Like, if this setup, if I had the one that had the drawers in it now, I could do away with that Tough Built system and just add that room. Like, that would be enough. So that alone right there would be good for me, because I would add room in my trailer, and it would be one less thing I have to pull off the vehicle, or the trailer rather, to go do a job. So, I mean,
so even with the extra cost,
because like think of it this way, that pack out system setup is around $600 to buy, just empty, just right here, ready to load up. I would rather put that into something that I'm already using, that I can pull off one time and put back on one time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
just a
Mm-hmm.
thought, but
Yeah.
You can get a whole pack out cart for $600. You're doing better than me. Those things
Yeah.
are pricey,
they're pricey.
especially
And
once
I
you add the
understand for
topper.
people that want to break them down, you know, break down the toolboxes or pack outs to put in their vehicles. That's different. But like as far as me having a trailer on and off, I could do away with a whole tough built system if I had one with drawers in it. So and I'm big on organization too. So that's really good to see as far as my point of view goes.
Yeah. No, it's just not something you think of, like innovation, you think of, things like centipedes and hinge tabs and K towers. You don't think about drawers and, shadow boards and stuff. But the truth is, the organization innovation is just as valuable, maybe more valuable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's more.
The one thing I want to do at a job is take the stuff that I need off the fastest and put it back on the fastest, and my most used stuff be in that thing. So right now I have stuff that maybe I'm less organized, so I have to pull off this thing and pull off that thing, and then before you know it, I got 3 carts out here, and I'm like, well, this I could eliminate all this, if I could fit one something, and yeah, drawers would do that for me on those.
Yeah, that was something that I was hoping to see in a KECO cart. So I'm glad you guys did it, even if there's extra costs and loss for it.
And the light also being on that cart.
That was a good idea.
Just again, that takes away having to buy another stand because you don't want to use a suction cup on a car, and it's right there, and everything that you're using right there. Just you're down the side of a car most of the time anyway. So that's cool.
Yeah.
We're
hopeful we can sell a bunch of those at MTE for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's mobile stuff. I mean, especially for me, that's what I want to do. Pull the least amount of stuff off and put the least amount back on to do a job. Yeah, I do not like unpacking an entire trailer to go do something.
Okay.
Well, and even like down to the casters. I think we changed casters on that thing 3 times, and it's like the ones we ended up with, my gosh, they're costly. But I mean, they're whisper quiet. I mean,
Right.
they just, like the others, with all those PDR rods and stuff. I mean, it's kind of clangy anyway. And so if you put a nice caster under that, you've made a huge difference in like your psyche, because it's not quite so like freaking distracting, when you start rolling that thing across the floor.
Yeah.
Well, my current boss, who I gave my notice to, I'm going out full-time PDR March 1st, but he's interested. Thank you. He's interested in one of those pro the GPR Plus Pro carts, because there's some guys in there that are watching me push stuff and they want to push stuff, and so he's happy with the KECO stuff, so he's planning on giving you guys a call on that system for sure.
Nice.
But,
yeah. Nice guy. I met him at the Rivian conference.
That's right. Yeah, you did. Yep. Yeah. It's no, he's bought into it. He's really I mean, we just got to show these guys what's possible, and just me being in there using my tools and everything, he was all in. He was, I got to send some guys to training. 3 guys just came back from Oklahoma. I think he's planning to send 3 more. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Very
that's
cool.
really good. That's really good. One of the things I think I'm going to do with the training in Oklahoma is, I've threatened to create our own financing company at some point, and I think I will at some point. But I think what I'll start with is financing training for people, instead of having to pay that big amount for the week, putting them on a program that, it's so much a month, for so many months, be easier maybe to get more people to come to Oklahoma for the training. But anyway, yeah, we just want to keep trying to make it easier for people to experience the training and invest in themselves and then up their game, right?
Right.
As
That's smart.
if their skill set's growing, then their paycheck's gonna be growing, without a
And
doubt.
these body guys are used to paying what, the $40-50 a week for those tools that they're buying. So no, this is good. It was a point a PD Tech made recently when he was complaining about pricing of tools going up and everything. And I pretty much flat out just said, listen, dead guys are cheap. Y'all are cheap. So body guys, we're buying this stuff that's crazy expensive, $25,000 toolboxes. And he said, how the hell are you doing that? I said, they give us a line of credit.
Right.
We pay weekly. And
Right.
it doesn't matter what it costs. I need that to do my job. Give that to me, and that's it. So
Right.
he that PDR tech turned around and he just looked at me. He's like, maybe we should start buying things on credit, like as PDR techs and stop complaining so much. And it's like, yeah, you can afford it,
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
so yeah, no, that's I like what you're saying, and offering the financing for training is a big thing, because that's the number one thing I hear from guys is that they can't afford the training and their boss won't send them, and then they feel like they're lost and they just can't do it. They're just, oh well.
Yeah, and I think that motive takes a toll on them to where they don't want to learn the setup at all because of that one reason. Like they don't even want to get into it. And because we tell people a lot of times too, well, you can buy some of the stuff individually, but they're like, well, I don't know what to buy. I don't know if I get this or that, will I ever use this? And my money's going to be gone if I spend $500 or whatever on it. Is it worth it? Not really,
And they don't want to piece it all together, because if you buy the system, you get it at a better price. So then they, see, anyway, it's just those are the things that we hear from the guys that are in the collision world, So, but I mean, we're well over an hour now. I don't want to hold you too long. Is there anything that you want the small Smash Master world to know before we end the show?
No, I would say that, Dan and I were talking about it the other day, and it's like, I think he said this, and I feel the same way, like when guys, like you that, were in the collision business and then, learn PDR, and now, Nick, you're already out on your own, and Stefan, you're going on your own. Danny said it this way. He said, I respect the hell out of those guys, right? Because they're taking risks and they're growing and developing. And so, and even now, even with what you guys are doing, with this podcast, more people see it than you think, right? More people are watching it than you think. And so, and truthfully, I think, just in the little that I've watched you guys, individually and together, you're growing a lot, right? I see it, and so I just, no, nothing I need the listeners to know other than like, keep listening and keep watching, because, there's a lot to learn here. And I appreciate the opportunity to be a part, and want to just encourage you to keep learning, growing, and doing, and good luck to you, Stefan. I know it's probably scary, but also very exciting, right? So
yeah, definitely a mixture of those feelings.
It was.
I can absolutely say that no, I really appreciate the kind words, but I truly appreciate everything KECO, which clearly you have a huge part of. So it's I like to say you guys changed my world and my life, but I changed my life, but you guys were a key factor in that, in a spark. And it was the KECO training, half day KECO training from Gene Fetty changed my life. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, for the longest, here's maybe this is a good place to leave it. For the longest time, I railed against like the thoughts of like mission statements and all that crap that people put on walls or whatever, because I don't think they really mean it. But ever since, the last, I don't know, maybe it was 2 years ago, maybe it was 3 years ago now, time gets away. But we decided that what we wanted to be about, and again, we want to sell tools. We want to sell a lot of them. We want to sell training. We want to sell a lot of them. We want to make a lot of money. We really do. I'm not saying that this is like a freaking volunteer organization, but when it all goes, when it all goes down to it, we want to do that, but we want to help people. And so the way we say it is we're building a brand that builds people. And so to hear you say that, Stefan, is something that, tomorrow at 8 a.m. when I meet with my leadership team, there'll be a section of our meeting that talks about headlines. And I'll tell them, Stefan said, hey, this company helped me change my life. Right. Mm-hmm. And so boom, check mark, building a brand that builds people. That's what we want to be about.
Right. That's a cool thing. And those little plaques back there going through the training and all that stuff, that might be a small something, but it's really cool. I have mine. You can't see it. It's just right here, but we can look at that all the time and be like, you know what, that we did that in 2024. That was one of the best trips that we had during those years. And we went to a lot of places. You guys are killing it as a big part like of me growing. So, and like Stefan just said, so yeah, I love it. I like seeing it. I like going back and looking how far I've grown and watching these videos and stuff.
For sure. As Eldar says, let's glue pull. It's super cool.
Yeah.
That's right. There's the ending right there. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you, everybody who's watching. I really appreciate it, you all. And I'll see a lot of you this week at MT.
Yeah, we'll see y'all. Look forward to it.
Bye-bye, everybody.
So crank it up loud.